In this video, I'm going to show you how to use GitHub using Microsoft Power BI. Now, Microsoft Power BI supports storing the file items in repository. So source code repository like Azure DevOps can be used to store your Power BI files. Now the workspace basically is the focal point basically which gets integrated with Azure DevOps. So if you know what a workspace is and if you know how to configure a workspace, then you will be able to save your artifacts in the GitHub repository, the Git repository. Now there are multiple ways to connect to different source control like Git and GitHub. Now I'm going to work basically on Azure DevOps Git. Ability to connect with Git and GitHub is a new functionality basically which allows users to store the source code information in a more readable form. And I'm going to explain you that once I start connecting you with the workspace with Azure DevOps Git project. Now, only Workspace Admin can connect the workspace to repository. Now, other users with the permission can work in the workspace, but then they will not be able to connect that workspace to the repository. There are some settings within Admin Center that needs to be turned on for the integration to work properly. Now, from a licensing perspective, you need to have a Power BI premium license or some sort of a capacity in terms of Fabric perspective to make this integration happen. Now, in the workspace setting, there is an option called as Git integration. So, from a Git integration perspective, you can connect to a Git to manage your code and back up your work. Now, there are two options which are currently available from a Git provider perspective: Azure DevOps and GitHub. Now, whereas there are various supported and unsupported artifacts, there are supported components like paginated reports, semantic model reports, data pipeline, lakehouse, notebooks, warehouse, Spark environment, Spark job definition, etc. are supported component. However, from a semantic model or reporting perspective, if you are connecting to a data source which is of analysis services, which is connected to an analysis service, it is not currently supported. And similarly, semantic model with a push data set is not supported as part of the artifacts. Now, workspace with template app installed cannot be connected to Git at the current moment. Now, from a Git integration perspective, Azure DevOps account must be registered to the same user that is using the Fabric workspace. Now, the tenant admin must enable cross geo exports, which I'm going to demonstrate you in the demo. Basically, it says that the workspace and the GitHub Git repo should reside in two different geographical region, needs to be connected. So, take for example, if your workspace is located in a location A and Git repo Azure DevOps reside in location B, then you need to explicitly specify that you should select an option which allows you to basically connect those cross geo related services. Now the commit size is limited to 125 meg, maximum file size is 25 meg. You can't download a report or dataset as PBI from the service after deploying them with Git integration. Now you can only sync in one direction at a time. You can't commit and update at the same time, and also the sensitivity labels aren't supported. Now this is what the error message will looks like. So if your Azure DevOps and your Power BI Workspace is a different region, now in order to get around with that, you need to turn on some of the settings within the admin center. Now there are various settings from a Git integration perspective. Now, as you see over here, this users can export item to Git repo and other geographical locations. So the error which we just saw in the previous slide, here, if you turn this on, then that error will go away. So that means you are basically trusting two geographies to connect to the workspace and the Git repo to store the code items. From a Git integration perspective, now this is Git integration and this is for GitHub. So from a Git integration perspective, users can synchronize workspace item with their Git repository. This an option needs to be turned on. And from a GitHub repository perspective, user can select GitHub as the Git provider and sync item in the workspace using GitHub repository. So these are the three items which needs to be turned on. From a workspace setting perspective, if you go into the Git integration, then there is an once you connect it, then it will automatically detect the Azure DevOps which is connected to that Azure AD account. And from there, all the organization, project, Git repo, branch, and the Git folder will get populated. Now remember, you need to have a premium per user license configured. And once you have the premium per user license configured, you will be successfully able to integrate the Git. Now, this is how it will look like from an Azure DevOps perspective. So I've created one project, and then within that project, I've connected the workspace. And you can actually view all in the form of a markdown, JSON, or RDL report in the text format. This is how a simple Git status will look like, whether if it's unsupported or if it is supported, then it will show as either sync or uncommitted, and then you can make those changes and then get this thing sorted out. Source control support, it allows you to submit a message, a commit message, and then that commit message is viewable in Azure DevOps. So let's jump into the demo. So what I'm going to do is, like, first I'll show you the Power BI admin center settings. So let me go into settings, and then from here, you have an option to go into the admin portal. Now within admin portal, if we just type in Git, there is an option user can synchronize workspace item with their Git repository. This should be enabled. So I've turned this on. User can export item to Git repository in other geographical location. This should be turned on if your Azure DevOps and your Git repos, Azure DevOps and your Power BI workspaces in different location or different geography. And then user can synchronize workplace item with GitHub repository. So if you are integrating with a GitHub repository, then this option need to be turned on. So I'm not going to cover GitHub repository, but this is just like, I'm just showing you that these all settings needs to be turned on. So what I'm going to do is, first thing, I'm going to go into the workspace. Okay, so I'll create a new workspace, and then I'll call this as, say, USA workspace. Okay, so this is a simple workspace, which is, I've put some description. I can put some workspace image, and license mode, I'll put premium per user, and I'll just click on apply. So I've created a simple workspace named as a USA workspace. Now from a USA workspace, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a couple of items. So I can create a paginated report. So let me create one simple paginated report. So let me create a paginated report for, say, one of the approvals kit application. Okay, so here, I have got various tables and views and those side of things. So what I'm going to do is, like, let me select this item. So this is a simple paginated report. I'm just creating it, and I'll just click on save, and in the save, I'll call this as approval page report. Okay, and I'm saving it in USA workspace. So this is one item which I've created in my workspace. So let it save. And also I'm going to create one simple, say, I'll create a new scorecard, or a dashboard. So I'll create a new scorecard. So here I'll name this as scorecard as target for CEO, and then I'll say sales up by 100%, and then I'll put some value. Current value is 89, final target is 100, and status is behind, and start date is, yeah. So that's all good. So I'll click on save. So this is one of the scorecard which I have created, right? Similarly, what I'm going to do, I'll open Power BI desktop, and within this Power BI desktop, I'm going to create one simple report. So I've already connected to one data source. I'll just click on one of the report, and then from here I will just say product, category, and then I can put some date around y-axis, and I can put the list price as a legend, and yeah, some sort of report. No, not the list price. I'll just close this. I'll just keep this as simple. Okay, so I'll just keep this as a report. Okay, and from here, in Power BI desktop, what I can do is, like, let me cancel this off. Let me show you the option. So if I go to file and options and settings, there is an option under preview feature. So if you go to preview feature, there is an option which will say you Power BI project file, save option, store semantic model using TMDL, store report using enhanced metadata format. So make sure you turn this on if you want to use the new PBI project save option feature. Okay, so this is just one of the Power BI desktop. So what I'm going to do, file, save, Okay, and then I will go to Girish EDV and save. And I've already connected to the repository, so I'll just say publish to Power BI. And here I will be able to see my workspace, the USA workspace, and I'll just publish this. Okay, and I was just publishing the PBX file to the Power BI Workspace. So we have done three things. One is paginated report, scorecard, and one the report, along with the semantic model, is being published into the repository. Okay, so enough of the things. Let's go into the Azure DevOps. So this is one of my Azure DevOps repository. Now there are multiple organizations, so I'm picked one of the organization G Power BI, and I'll create a new Power BI report, and I'll call it as now 2024 project. And this is a simple project, version control Git, and I'll create this project. So I have a project, I have various things within the workspace. Now, how do I connect it? So if I go into the workspace, if I go into USA workspace over here, now here in workspace, you have something called as the workspace settings. So if I click on workspace setting and I'll click on Git integration, now here it will say connect to Git to manage your code and backup your work. So what kind of Git provider you want? So I will be connecting to Azure DevOps. So if I click on Azure DevOps, it says which account to pick. So I'll say, okay, Girish.Uppal at something something dot on Microsoft.com. Now remember, this account should be the same as what we have in the Azure DevOps. Now I'll just sign this out again just to show you. I'll just sign this off. I'll click on apps, and then I will again go back to Azure DevOps, and then I will log back into that service. So just to show you that this is a DevOps account which is connected to various organization. These are the organization, and going to one of the organization here, I've created one project. Okay. Now coming back to the workspace setting, I'll click on connect and I'll say organization, and this is the same organization which you see listed over here, right? So this is the same organization you'll see listed over here. Now, if I select, say, G Power BI, from here project, I've created a new project now, 2024 project, Git repository, and the Git repository over here, it is, we can select this Git repository, and then the branch, as you see over here, there's no branch, right? So in order to create a branch, what we do is like we go into the now 2024 project, go to the repos, and from here, let's initialize the repository. Now, once you initialize the repository, you get this main branch, and you can create different branches as well. So I'll create a branch called as say branch one. I'll create a branch which is called as branch two, which will be under main branch, and I'll click on create. So I have main branch, branch one, branch two. Now from here, if I again go back and make that selection, it will fetch from here and it will see that, oh, there are multiple branches. So I'll click on main branch. I can specify a Git folder or nothing. I'll just say connect and sync. Now if I click on connect and sync, as you see over here, it is syncing content from this workspace to the Git. So what is essentially happening is like this workspace is getting connected and says your content was synced. So all the items within this workspace which we have created, named as paginated report, semantic model, scorecard, semantic model, and all these items is now currently connected. Now, for some item it says it's unsupported. For some item it says it is synced. All good. That's what I was talking about from an unsupported and synced perspective. Now, this is all good. What we are going to do is we are going to come here and then go into the Azure DevOps repository, go back here, go to the now 2024 project over here, and let me go back to the files, and yeah, let me refresh this. Okay, so this is the Azure DevOps project. Now here it says it is synced up. Let me go ahead and make some change into the paginated report. So if I go into the approval page report now, and if I make some change to this report, so it is still loading. So this is the simple report, and I'll say edit and report Oh, okay, I don't have a report builder over here. So what I'm going to do, I'll just close this report. So let me click on editing. And now from here, I'll say I do not want. So this is the table format, which I can see over here. So let me show you over here. These are the various columns, which are the things. I'll just name it as owner. And it's a simple change, which I'll just make. Still load. And I'll click on save. So these are the simple changes which I have made. Now, once I make this change, it will say save successfully, right? Now, okay, going back to the workspace, here it says the change is uncommitted, right? So what we will do is, like, we have made this change on the approval page report. If you want to commit, you select this three options over here, three dot over here, and you can do various settings like settings, manage, save a copy, and all those things. You select this item, okay, and then under source control, as you see this icon over here, it says there are some uncommitted changes. So I'll click on source control, and then from here I will put some comment, and I'll say added owner field. And once I add owner field, I'll click on approve page report, and then based on that, I'll just commit this. Now this change will get committed into the backend repository, right? So if you go into your Azure DevOps, now as you see over here, you don't see any file. Now why do you don't see any file? Is because you're in the wrong branch. So you're in branch 2. So let me select the main branch. Okay, I can go into branch 1 and see there's nothing in it. But if I go to the main branch, I can see all the items gets synced up. Okay, so we have a paginated report, we have a EDB report, and we have a semantic model. Now if you want to see what all things exist, go to the paginated report. You have a dot platform file, and we have a dot rdl file, which will store the information in a report definition language, right? And then if you want to see the history, this is what we have put while committing, right? Added owner field, right? And the first one was an initial commit. This was just get added, and this was get it edited, right? So this is from an rdl perspective. From a adv report perspective, you can also see the report in the form of dot platform, dot pbir, report dot json, and then from a static resource, if there are any shared resource or base theme, it will show you in this JSON format. So this is from a reporting perspective. And similarly, from the semantic model, PBISM and BIM file, it will store all this information. Now, what if I make some change over here? So let me make some change over here. So I'll just come here. I'll just take the Power BI desktop report. And this time I'm going to add something over here. And I'm just making some random selection over here. So let me put a product, and y-axis, let me put a date. Yeah, and then this is the maybe some ugly report which I create, and then I'll click on save, and then after clicking on save, I'll just click on publish to Power BI. Now once it is published to Power BI, it publishes to USA Workspace, and then going back into Power BI, if I go here, then now as you see over currently, previously it was EDV, Girish EDV, which is the report and semantic model was synced. Now if I just refresh, and it is asking me to replace, I'll just replace this, and this will be published in a while. And once that is done, just refresh this, and as you see over here, it will now say, instead of synced, it will say uncommitted. And then once it is uncommitted, then you know this report is uncommitted. I'll just click on this report, and then source control, and then I can provide my commit, say added second visual. And you get this information stored, right? So this will be updated within the source code repository. And if you go into the adv.report and adv.semantic model, you should be able to see from a history perspective, added second visual. This is all added now, just now, and your report is now connected. Now, Another thing which I want to talk about is like something called as a Power BI desktop project. So this is an article from Microsoft, which is in this is in preview. So it says there is something called as a file called as PBIP file. So Power BI desktop introduced a new way to author, collaborate, and save your project. So when you save your work as a PBIP report and semantic model item definitions are saved as individual plain text file in a simple intuitive folder structure. Saving your work as a project has the following benefit. So you get an option of text editor support, programmatic generation, source control management, continuous integration, and continuous delivery. So I'm not going to go into this much, but then I can show you that what you can do is earlier when I showed you the setting, file options and setting preview feature. So we need to turn in Power BI desktop a preview feature on. So if I go to file, I go to options and settings, go to options, go to the preview feature, and within the preview feature, you have an option to enable this Power BI project. Okay, so you can store semantic model using TMDL and report using enhanced metadata format. Now you can do this. So how to save this is I'll just show you. So if you go to the Power BI and then I'll say file and then I'll say save as. Now instead of save as, you need to specify PBIP. So the moment you do that, then your file will be stored as PBIP file. However, you need to make sure that once you do that, you will not be able to download the PBIX file. This will be completely controlled using the Power BI project logic, and this can be edited by different users within your organization. So this is mainly for collaboration, right? So I'm going to cover that in a separate video, but again, this is also possible from a source control source code perspective. And also we can how we have connected this particular workspace to a Git repository, which is Azure DevOps. Similarly, if I go into this workspace, so let me pick up this workspace again and show you that this is a Git integration. Now, this is already connected. Now, you can disconnect this workspace and then you can make use of Git as well. Okay, so if I go into workspace and if I select this test workspace, if I go to workspace setting, go to Git integration, I can connect to GitHub as well. So it says connect this workspace with GitHub by adding an account. You need to connect to a GitHub account. You need to have a GitHub account created. Also, it says you need a premium license for this workspace to continue. So from a licensing perspective, you need to have a premium license. So if I have a premium per user and I'll say select, and it says okay, you're changing workspace access, only people who have premium per user will be able to access, and then from that point onwards you can connect it, right? So these are the different ways through which you can connect a Power BI workspace to a Git repository. Thanks for watching.